Adaora worked in a small laundry shop where she washed, ironed, and folded clothes for customers who barely noticed her. The shop was more than her workplace. It was her home. In the corner, a thin mat was where she slept each night. A single cup and plate were all she owned, yet she often whispered to herself, "At least I have somewhere to stay." One bright morning, Adaora sat cross-legged on her mat, eating a small bowl of Gary soaked in water. Her boss, Mr. Ocone, had just unlocked the shop when the first customer of the day arrived, a well-dressed woman in bright yellow lace. Adaora quickly wiped her hands on her dress, grabbed a cup of water to wash her face, and stepped through the doorway, only to bump directly into the woman. "Hey, are you blind?" The woman snapped, staring at the wet patch on her expensive outfit. Adaora's heart sank. "I'm so sorry, Ma. I didn't see you. Please, let me clean it." "Don't touch me," the woman hissed, stepping back. "Do you know how expensive this dress is? You, this dirty girl." Adaora lowered her head. "I'm very sorry, Ma. It was a mistake. A mistake." The woman's voice cut through the morning air. "People who work here have no manners, no training." She stormed into the back office where Mr. Ocone sat. Moments later, Adaora heard the words that made her legs weak. "Fire her, or I take my business elsewhere. And remember, my fiancé is one of your biggest customers." Mr. Ocone emerged from his office, avoiding Adaora's eyes. "Adaora, you've been a good worker, but I can't lose this customer. You'll have to leave." She dropped to her knees. "Sir, please. I have nowhere else to go. This is where I live, where I eat." He sighed, but shook his head. "I'm sorry. My hands are tied." The well-dressed woman stood at the doorway, smirking. "That'll teach you to watch where you're going," she said before leaving. That evening, Adaora packed her few clothes into a small bag and wandered the streets. She passed an uncompleted building, high walls, no doors or windows. Inside was a flat surface of cement blocks. It wasn't safe, but it was better than the open street. She lay down on the cold floor, using her wrapper as a blanket, whispering, "God, please help me." The next morning, Adaora was startled awake by voices. A group of construction workers had entered the site. One of them frowned. "Who are you? What are you doing here?" "I'm sorry, sir," Adaora said, trembling. "I lost my job. I can work. Please, let me help here." "This isn't work for women," another said. "Heavy blocks, cement mixing. Can you handle it?" "I can, sir," Adaora replied firmly. "Please, just give me a chance." They exchanged looks. "Wait for the boss. He'll decide." An hour later, a tall man in a white shirt and safety boots arrived. The site supervisor, Mr. Tunt. Hearing her story, he looked her over and said, "This is hard work. If you can't handle it, you leave." "Understood." "Yes, sir." "All right. Start tomorrow." Adaora's tears fell, but this time they were from relief. Under the scorching sun, Adaora carried heavy blocks, mixed cement, fetched water. Her arms aching, legs trembling, but she never stopped. The workers murmured in surprise. "This girl is even stronger than some of the boys." A week later, the building's owner, Chief Obina, visited. Spotting Adaora, he asked the site engineer, "Who's that girl? Why is she doing this work?" The engineer explained her story. Chief Obina frowned. "This isn't right. Call her here." "Adaora," he said kindly, "this work is too dangerous for you. I'll speak to the engineer. You have to stop." "Please, sir," she begged. "I have nowhere to go. I can even sleep here." "It's not my decision," the engineer later told her. "Every disappointment is a blessing. God will give you something better." That night, she found another uncompleted building to sleep in. Meanwhile, Chief Obina visited the laundry to pick up his clothes. The owner mentioned that his fiancée, Chica, had demanded Adaora be fired after the Gary incident. Chief Obina's brow furrowed. "Chica?" "Yes, sir. She said she'd stop bringing her laundry if I didn't fire the girl." Driving home, guilt gnawed at him. A few days later, he spotted a lone figure walking barefoot along the roadside at night. Pulling over, he called out, "Adaora." "Sir?" she whispered, unsure whether to run. "What are you doing out here?" "I have nowhere to go." "Get in," he said. She hesitated but obeyed. Obina brought Adaora to his large, well-lit home. Chica's eyes narrowed the moment she saw her. Who is this? Chica demanded. She'll be staying here, Obina replied firmly. She'll work in the house and have a place to sleep. Chica glared, but said nothing. Obina showed Adaora to a guest room, her first real bed in years. From the start, Chica treated Adaora like an unwelcome pest, snapping at her sweeping, rationing her food. One night, Obina discovered Adaora hadn't eaten all day. Why, he asked. Madam said I shouldn't eat. Furious, Obina confronted Chica. She's here to work, not starve. Reluctantly, Chica served Adaora a meager portion. Adaora whispered thanks through tears. Despite the mistreatment, Adaora remained respectful and diligent. Obina began to notice the way she smiled when greeting him, the quiet efficiency of her work. One evening, he returned with dresses, some for Chica, one for Adaora. For me, sir? Adaora asked, trembling. You deserve it, he smiled. Chica erupted. Why are you favoring her? Naomi is part of this household, Obina said. Show her respect. The morning was quiet, with sunlight spilling into the kitchen as Adaora washed the breakfast dishes. She heard Chica's sharp heels clicking on the tiled floor behind her. You think you're clever, don't you? Chica's voice was low, almost a hiss. Adaora turned slowly. I don't understand, Ma. You think that dress he bought you means something? You think you can stand where I stand? Chica's eyes glittered with hostility. Adaora shook her head quickly. No, Ma. It was just a gift. I didn't ask. Liar. Chica cut her off, her lips curling into a cruel smile. Let me teach you a lesson. She walked straight into Adaora's small guest room and snatched the carefully folded dress from its hanger. Please, madam. That's all I have that's new, Adaora cried, chasing after her into the yard. Chica ignored her, grabbed a box of matches, and struck one. Adaora's breath caught in her throat as the flame licked the air. No, Ma, I beg you. Adaora's voice cracked, her hands trembling. Chica held the dress above the small fire pit and dropped it in. The fabric caught quickly, curling and blackening as flames consumed it. The smell of burning cloth filled the air. Adaora fell to her knees. Please, please stop, she sobbed. But Chica only folded her arms, watching the last ember die out. That's what happens when you forget your place, she said coldly before walking back inside. Adaora stayed on the ground long after, staring at the ashes. The gift had been more than fabric. It had been a symbol of kindness, hope, and now it was gone. A few days later, Chica's tone suddenly changed. Adaora, she called sweetly from the living room. Come sit with me for a minute. Adaora hesitated. Chica had never invited her to sit on the couch before. She approached slowly, perching on the edge. I know I've been hard on you, Chica began, feigning sincerity. I've said things I shouldn't have. I want us to start over like sisters. Adaora blinked in surprise. I hold no grudges, Ma. I'm grateful for the chance to stay here. Chica smiled warmly. Good. Can I ask you for a favor? I'm craving noodles, but I can't cook them the way you do. Will you make some for me? Adaora brightened. Of course, Ma. She hurried to the kitchen, humming softly as she boiled the noodles and added seasoning. Minutes later, she placed the steaming bowl in front of Chica. Thank you, Chica said, picking up a fork. But instead of eating, she stared at the bowl, her eyes narrowing. Suddenly, she shot up from the couch. What have you done? She screamed. Adaora froze. Ma, you put something in this food. You're trying to poison me. Chica's voice rang through the house. Obina rushed in. What's going on? She tried to kill me. Chica wailed, pointing at Adaora. That's not true. Adaora's voice shook. I only made the noodles. Liar, Chica cried, clutching her stomach dramatically. In desperation, Adaora grabbed the bowl and ate a spoonful right there. See? There's nothing wrong. But within seconds, a stabbing pain tore through her stomach. She gasped, clutching her side. Adaora collapsed to the floor, the room spinning around her. Obina's voice grew urgent. Adaora, stay with me. Her breathing turned shallow, her lips trembling. It hurts, she whispered before darkness claimed her. When she woke, the beeping of hospital machines filled her ears. She turned her head weakly to see Obina sitting beside her, his eyes red from worry. Thank God you're awake, he said, gripping her hand gently. You're going to be fine. The doctor says you'll recover. Adaora's voice was barely a whisper. What happened? You collapsed after eating those noodles, Obina explained. His expression darkened. But I need you to know something. I reviewed the living room cameras. Adaora's brows furrowed. Cameras? Yes, Obina said. And I saw everything. Chica put something in that food before you served it. She set you up, Adaora. Adaora's eyes widened in disbelief. But why? I don't know, Obina admitted. But I'm not letting her get away with it. When he returned home, Obina walked straight to the living room where Chica was scrolling through her phone. Pack your things, he said flatly. Chica looked up, feigning confusion. What are you talking about? There's a camera in that room, Obina said coldly. I saw what you did. If I call the police, you'll regret it. Leave. The color drained from Chica's face. She muttered under her breath, then hurried to her room to pack, leaving minutes later without looking back. Days passed, and Adaora slowly regained her strength. One sunny afternoon, Obina knocked softly on her door and stepped inside with a warm smile. How are you feeling? He asked. Better, sir, Adaora said quietly. He pulled up a chair. Adaora, you've been through too much, and you didn't deserve any of it. I want to make things right. She tilted her head, unsure what he meant. You once told me you wanted to go back to school, he continued. I've spoken to the right people. You're already enrolled. I'll take care of the fees and whatever else you need. Adaora's hand flew to her mouth. You're serious? Of course, he said, his voice steady. You deserve every opportunity. I believe in you. Tears filled her eyes. Thank you, sir. You've given me more than I ever dreamed. No more, sir, Obina said with a small smile. You're family now, and family takes care of each other. In that moment, the cold walls of Adaora's past seemed to melt away. For the first time in years, she allowed herself to believe in a future filled with possibility. Weeks passed, and life in the Obina household felt different, calmer, warmer. Without Chica's constant tension, Adaora moved through her days with a quiet confidence. She kept the house in order, prepared Obina's meals, and, most importantly, focused on her studies. One evening, as the sun dipped low and painted the living room in shades of gold, Obina came home earlier than usual. He found Adaora in the garden, watering the flowers she had planted. She looked up at him, her face framed by the fading light. Adaora, he called gently. Yes, sir, she replied, setting down the watering can. Come, let's sit, he said, leading her to the patio. They sat side by side, the air filled with the distant chirping of crickets. For a moment, he said nothing, simply studying her face. You've been through so much, he began quietly. Yet you remain kind. You never complain. You've turned my house into a home. Adaora smiled faintly, unsure where he was going with this. I'm only doing my best, sir. No, Obina said firmly. It's more than that. Adaora, you've changed my life. And I know, I've fallen in love with you. Her breath caught. Sir, Don't call me sir, he interrupted gently. This isn't about where you came from or what you've been through. It's about who you are, and you are extraordinary. Adaora looked down, her heart pounding. No one had ever spoken to her like that before. Take your time, Obina said softly. You don't need to answer now. I just wanted you to know. Months later, after Adaora had completed her first term back at school, Obina called her into the living room. He was dressed smartly, a nervous smile on his face. In his hand was a small velvet box. Adaora, he began as she stepped in, her heart suddenly racing. I've made up my mind. I want you to be my wife. Her eyes widened. Me? But are you sure? I've never been more sure of anything, Obina replied. You're everything I've been searching for, loyal, kind, strong. We'll build a life together, no matter what it takes. Tears welled up in her eyes. I don't know how to be a wife in your world. I don't know all the rules. We'll learn together, he said, taking her hands in his. All I need is you. She smiled through her tears. Then yes, I'll marry you. Obina laughed, pulling her into a warm embrace. No more sir. Call me Obina. Their wedding was small but beautiful, a gathering of close friends and family who knew their journey. Adaora wore a simple white dress that seemed to glow under the soft lights. Obinna couldn't take his eyes off her, and when they exchanged vows, there wasn't a dry eye in the room. After the ceremony, as they danced to a slow, gentle tune, Adaora whispered, "Sometimes I still can't believe this is my life." Obinna held her close. "It's only the beginning." True to his word, Obinna supported her dreams. Adaora completed her studies and, inspired by her own hardships, founded a charity to help young girls in need. She visited shelters, offered scholarships, and made sure no girl would feel as helpless as she once had. From sleeping on a cold cement floor to becoming the cherished wife of a man who valued her heart above all else, Adaora's life became living proof that kindness, humility, and perseverance can transform fate. Her journey was more than survival. It was a testament to the beauty of second chances and the power of love that sees beyond circumstance.